After a year without it, March Madness is officially back. Hello and welcome everyone to the 2021 Off the Cuff Selection Sunday Show. I am your host, Adam Banks. We are kicking off the annual Off the Cuff March Madness series with the Selection Sunday Show. This episode is exclusively on podcast, so you have it tuned into the right place. I have with me what I have been calling for years, my professional sports panel, Chad Rainwater, Hahn and Jordan Conaster. Guys, thank you so much for being here. They are all joining me via Zoom. This is the first time that we have actually took this route of media to do this show. But let me start with Hahn. Zach, you and I just spent a little time in Camp David. We just got back from up there. How's it been going, my man?
It's been great. And, digital or not, happy to be here. It's been almost 2 years since we actually got to do this and have some basketball to talk about. So it's long overdue and looking forward to it as always.
I see Jordan Conaster. He looks like he's broadcasting from the Johnson Arena in Moorhead, Kentucky. Jordan, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man. So happy to be back. Like Zach said, it's nice to be able to have basketball to talk about this year. So it's been 2 years without March Madness, so I'm ready to get it cranked up.
And we also are joined by Chad Rainwater. Chad, how's it going, buddy?
It's going, man. I wish we could all be together because this is one of my favorite days of the year. But, it just have to be digitally this year.
I'm curious to see how this sounds because I think that sometimes when we're together, we're in such sometimes it's echoey, sometimes it's bad quality. I'm curious to see what kind of quality Zoom gives us all together. I mean, it's our first time doing it. It is a little odd not being here hanging out, but I mean, that's what they do in 2021 now, right?
Yeah, if the quality is pretty bad, we just can blame it on Zoom. I mean, you don't have to throw me under the bus this year for that. So,
so tell me, yeah, that's true. So how has COVID affected you all since it happened? It's affected everybody in some way, but how's it affected y'all? And this is one of those things where anybody can jump in and speak.
Yeah, well, okay, there you go. So first thing with Zoom, it makes it a little tough to decide. We used to be able to point at each other and say, "Oh, you answer that." So, but no, in general, I've worked through most of this, so I've seen, all the rules and stuff that have gone into place. That's definitely changed things. But for me personally, I've still been at work every day.
Chad, what about you?
I have been working remotely from home. Not recently, but I guess going back to last March, I worked two months at home and worked about 2 or 3 weeks this year from home. So
I feel like that's not going to change. I feel like everybody's going to be working from home for the next 2 or 3 years. I think people are getting used to doing their paperwork in their pajama pants.
Yeah, because not only are we missing work or having to work because of COVID, but like even with the storms, like normally, if it was snowing, you'd go in, but now if there's just a little bit of snow outside, we can just work remotely. So I think it's been. I think that I'm sorry, I got distracted. My daughter popped up in my lap, but
life of COVID in 2021. Jordan, how about you, my man?
Man, it's I've been thankful to work all year. It's just been a crazy year. I'm ready to have sports back all the way. I'm ready for fans to be back in arenas. I'm ready to take my mask off and walk in public again and just some kind of whatever the new normality is going to be. So I'm COVID hadn't affected me personally with work. I haven't had to work from home or anything, but I'm just ready for everything to get back to normal. So ready to get back in the studio and do stuff with you all and, not have to do Zoom calls and stuff anymore and just have some normal back.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the real bummer there, Banks. We want to see that new studio you're working out of, man.
I've been trying to get you guys in it since I've got in it. We had this whole big shebang plan to come into the studio, do the March Madness series. radio debut. It was going to be great. COVID happened. I mean, came in like a whirlwind. I got canceled on TV. People was losing jobs. People was unable to wipe their ass because of toilet paper shortage. And I can say that we're not on the radio. This is exclusive podcast content. But it was one of those things where I feel like we had everything, all the pieces ready to be placed into the puzzle, but we just couldn't get it connected. But eventually you guys are all going to be in the studio with me, I promise. But it's been 2 years since we have, done something like this. Last year we all met. We kind of had a COVID-19 show, but let's get to what we're here to talk about, and that is the brackets. But before we really jump into the games on the bracket, let's just talk a little college basketball as far as the state of college basketball. COVID has definitely changed some things, especially with the no fans. I've been calling this season gym ball season. It feels like that it's just a lot of scrimmage games and a lot of practice games. Even in some of the biggest situations, it still feels like a gym ball basketball game. Do you guys feel the same way?
I think so. I think, COVID this year is just, and it's not just, college basketball. It's NBA. It's everything. It's all sports, Major League Baseball, NFL. And it's weird not having fans in there. And then, you look and see what it truly does. It takes away the home court advantage. Kentucky, Duke, Michigan State, Kansas, like they're all down this year. All the big programs are down. It's, all your younger kids aren't able to go out and communicate with other people. And it's been such an odd season. So the state of college basketball to me, it's kind of a season that's going to have an asterisk by it. Whoever wins this year, obviously they're going to be the best team, but this is going to always be the season with an asterisk next to it.
Do you think that because of the bizarre season that we're in, do you think that people are going to look at the winner of this year and be like, well, you won in a COVID year, so it's not as good? I don't think that people are going to look at it like that because, look at Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Nobody said anything about it being a COVID year. Everybody was talking about, oh, he just got another Super Bowl. So I think that no champion, regardless of the situation, I don't think no champion will get shortchanged because of the situation we're in.
I think it all depends on who wins.
Yeah, and I think it depends on whether everybody that's in the bracket right now is able to finish that. If there's a team that a lot of people feel like has a chance to win a championship that gets scrubbed from this, say midway through, then I think maybe that asterisk does come into play. But no, as far as like not having any home court advantage and stuff throughout the year, I think it's not been good for the sport overall. The atmosphere has been missing, but just as far as kind of handicap in this bracket goes, I think that's been a good thing for it because you have a lot of teams, their home court advantage is it kind of inflates their record and stuff. And if they've been playing neutral court games basically the whole season, I think that actually makes it a little bit more pure and just in terms of letting the best teams rise to the top and not getting favorable calls from home games and stuff like that.
And plus you got to think what COVID did to recruiting. There was a lot of recruiting trails that had to be stopped. Just stopped like a Mack truck going down Pine Mountain full speed. And they had to not get to go and meet some of these players who obviously have changed their game over the last 12 months. So I think it's affected recruiting a lot too. So next year might be when we see some effects of how this affected the game itself.
I think you're about to see the true testament of how bad COVID is, like how it's going to affect these teams, because all year there's been it's people have been still playing at their home arenas and stuff like that. They're about to throw all of these teams into a bubble in Indiana. And I'm curious to see how that plays out. Like, it's, nobody's had to play like that this year yet. So it could be really interesting.
Yes. And it's going to be interesting to see what the atmosphere is going to look like for this March Madness. The adrenaline buzz, I wonder if it's still going to be there. This is when we're going to, I think, notice the most where there's no fans, because you got to think even the booing helps too, not just the cheers. Just when you hear yourself getting booed, it makes you want to play harder because you're the underdog or maybe you're not playing good enough. So I think this is when we're really going to find out how this has affected the atmosphere. But all right, let's move along and let's talk about the bracket. It came out. How do you guys think the committee did with the seating this year?
I feel like they did a pretty good job with what they had to work with. I mean, it had to be really tough, and I just think that all the seeds are pretty well. I mean, I guess fair for the most part. I didn't see anything that really stood out to me like years past.
The game that stood out to me is the 11 seed game between Michigan State and UCLA. It's a first 4 game. I don't know what was happening there and what was going on when they decided to put those 2 powerhouse teams against each other for a first 4 game. But I think that BYU is the one that's going to get screwed. They're getting the short change out of the whole tournament. A number 6 seed playing against the 11 seed, which either is Michigan State or UCLA. And you know how Michigan State does in tournaments. Look at UCLA. They obviously do well in tournaments, 11 championships.
That's the game that I had is the biggest. BYU got the short end. Like they got screwed more than anybody that I honestly think I've ever seen in a tournament. Like literally the playing game are 2 of the top 8 programs of all time. And in a weird COVID year, I feel bad for BYU having to jump into it and having to play them as the playing game. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I think there was quite a bit of that going on. I don't think they did a real great job with the bracket. I think there's a lot of games on here where teams were misseeded for TV purposes. I think they always do that. But another UCLA, Michigan State's one for sure. Another one is Loyola Chicago's back this year, and they're actually pretty highly respected going in this time. So for them to be an 8 seed and have to face Illinois in the second round potentially, I mean, obviously that's a made-for-TV game with 2 programs that are really close together there, the Cinderella and then the powerhouse program in the same state. But there's no way Loyola should be an 8 seed. They should have been like a 4 or a 5. I mean, they're definitely a top 20 program this year for sure. So there's several things like that. I'm sure you'll talk about Moorhead Banks, but I think they got a little bit of bad luck with where they got put as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that they went more for TV ratings than actually trying to seed the teams fairly.
I can't wait to get to Moorhead. I don't know if you guys can see the way my camera is positioned, but I have on my Moorhead State tee. And for those of you guys who don't know listening, you should know, or if this is your first time tuning in, I am a proud Moorhead State alum, graduated twice from there, class of 2010 and class of 2011. But we'll get to Moorhead State in just a second. Let's talk about the teams that didn't make the tournament. Who got snubbed?
The only team that I think really I thought should have made it, and I hate to say it, is Louisville. I think Louisville should have made it. They only get to play like 16 games. They've been off and on, but I feel like, sitting back and looking at the bracket, I feel like they could have fit Louisville in there, which they were the first team out of the bracket. But other than that, Duke's out, and I don't see any reason why Duke should be in. So, and then Kentucky's out. There's no reason Kentucky should be in some of these big time programs. So I honestly don't think anybody really got snubbed that bad, and a lot of the teams that didn't play that many games.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to just agree with you on Louisville. They had a record 13-7. They were 8-5 in their conference. I think that what hurt Louisville was that loss to Duke. They needed that win. That was during the conference tournament, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then Duke got taken out immediately by COVID right after. So,
yeah. Go ahead, Chad.
Oh, I think that Mitch Barnhart had a lot to say about that as well.
You think so?
Louisville fans have to hate Mitch right now.
I think that will, make the UK Louisville rivalry has kind of gone down since Patino left. But I think this could, maybe possibly bring it back. Louisville fans have to be pissed right now in Mitch Barnhart because him being on the committee. But yeah, as far as Duke, we would have had a huge story, and we would all be so mad right now if they would have got in. I think word was leading up to the tournament, I had seen that they were going to get in. I'm glad they didn't, because like I said, we'd have a huge story, and this whole show would be about Duke making the tournament instead of our brackets. But I'm just glad they didn't make it.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with Louisville not getting in. Once they came back after that long COVID layoff, they were pretty terrible. They got blown out by North Carolina. They really
Zach
weren't.
Moorhead, or a Louisville alum, got a master's degree from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, just being I try to bring the objectivity to off the cuff, bring the professionalism, and I just gotta say, objectively, Louisville was awful once they got back from COVID. Like I said, they got smashed a couple times. Didn't look like the same team from before. So, while I gave the committee some heat earlier about where they seeded certain teams, I think they got the teams that are in the bracket correct. Yeah, there's not any huge omissions as far as teams that aren't there, other than Duke. But there's, obviously there's that COVID situation with them that is a bit of a complicating factor.
Well, on the flip flop, do you guys think that there were any shockers to see on the bracket? Were you like, wow, when you saw a team and you're like, how in the world did they make it? I feel like it's hard to make that judgment call because of how things are so different. I mean, you see a team with only 13 or 14 wins make the tournament, and any other year that would never happen. So it's hard to really tell who's should have made it, who shouldn't have, because of all these changes that's happened.
Yeah, it's definitely been a different season, but I don't really see anybody that I feel like, just shouldn't have made it. Looking at everything, there's teams, that 13, 14, 15 wins in it, like you said, in a normal season that wouldn't happen, but I think everything was pretty fair from top to bottom. So I don't have any arguments about the bracket. So I don't feel like anybody really got snubbed too bad. I don't feel like anybody was really misseeded too bad. So I feel like everything kind of, for a COVID year, for a weird year, I feel like everything kind of fell into place like it should have.
I agree. We all have put together some matchups on our bracket. What games stand out to you that you look forward to watching? I'm going to give you mine. I'm looking forward to seeing Iona versus Alabama, and that's only because Rick Pitino is back into the tournament. I think that's good for college basketball. How about Rick Pitino, ladies and gentlemen, making it back to the NCAA tournament? I mean, here's a man that hit rock bottom in his career, and he got a job back in the business, and he's already taken this team to the tournament. So I'm looking forward to watching that game. How about y'all?
That's another team, like you talked about, that didn't play that many games. They only played 17 games, and 4 of their wins were in the conference tournament to be able to come to the NCAA tournament. So I actually that's one of my biggest upsets of the tournament is the 15 seed Iona beating the 2 seed Alabama. So I just learned, especially with the offense that Alabama runs, Rick Pitino can match it. So I'm kind of curious to see what Iona can do against Alabama. I feel like that's going to be the biggest upset of the first round.
You have to think that Pitino is probably popping some champagne tonight after Iona made the tournament and Kentucky and Louisville both missed out. So he's pretty excited about that.
That's true.
Yes. He was feeling pretty good 2 years ago too, because his son Richard beat Chris Mack in the first round of the tournament 2 years ago?
Yeah, you were you remember that? Somebody almost tried to fight me over that.
Oh yeah, and all you did, you were clapping. And
I remember this.
Some salty Louisville fan came over and said, "That ain't funny that you're clapping because my team lost." And Zach's like, "Man, I went to Louisville. I'm a fan there as well. It's just clapping, just in general. I don't know. So many people emotional. He was the one 40 years old trying to get into a bar fight in the middle of the day."
Yeah, that was Richard Pitino, though. So Rick Pitino's had his revenge many times over against Louisville. I mean, the championship's gone, and his son beat him, and now he's in, and they're not. So I think he's kind of had the last laugh there for sure.
I'm also kind of looking forward to this game too. It's a random game. Arkansas versus Colgate. I like Colgate because Colgate is 14-1. They've only lost one game, and there's only a couple teams in the tournament with one game losses. I know Gonzaga is undefeated right now, but I'm looking forward to that game too, just to see if they can keep that up. I don't think that Colgate's. Let's see. No, I think I do got. I have Colgate taken down. No, I don't. No,
I've got Arkansas winning, but I've got that as one of my highlighted games that I really want to watch. Just hearing them talk about Colgate, it's going to be just a run and gun offensive game the whole time. But I was looking at Colgate's schedule for them this year. They only played like 3 teams. So it's literally like they played Army like 7 games in a row.
Yeah, I'm looking at their.
I don't know how much you can tell about a team whenever they've only played 3 different teams. So.
Yeah, I didn't look really in depth into their schedule. This is just kind of a surface look-see I did at the record.
Yeah, I'm looking at Colgate now. I wasn't aware of this, but the Patriot League did some weird stuff to get through their season. Colgate literally beat Holy Cross 4 times in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like Holy Cross, then they played Army 4 times in a row. Then they played
it looks like a baseball schedule.
All right. Well, maybe Colgate should just stick to toothpaste then. Does anybody else have any standout games that they're excited to watch?
First round games or just in general? Just in general. Well, as far as the first round goes, I think that 5-12 matchup between Villanova and Winthrop will be interesting. Villanova is obviously pretty banged up. Don't know a whole lot about Winthrop either, but I think they're another team that only has 1 loss. So that could be a big upset potential there. As far as games later on, I think the Midwest region in general has a lot of potentially interesting matchups. Like an Oklahoma State Illinois matchup would be really exciting in the Sweet 16. So I think that region in particular has a lot of interesting and exciting games that will be worth watching throughout all the way up to the Final Four.
I think Chad was trying to piggyback off your Winthrop pick there.
Yeah, that's the game I had written down. I only had a couple things on my cheat sheet here, and that was the only game that I had.
It's like he stole your thunder.
He definitely did. And I even raised my hand to go. And
I was looking at my notes. I'm sorry.
That's what I had too on my notes. But yeah, that's one of the games that I'm looking forward to watching. And that's probably my biggest upset that I have in my bracket. The 12-5 is always the most popular upset. And Villanova, they came in hot, and then just last week they lost their star point guard Colin Gillespie. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Winthrop was one of the last undefeated teams in D1. I could be wrong. I mean, they lost 1 game, so I'm just taking a wild guess there. But Winthrop is definitely a veteran team, and I think that without leadership of Gillespie, I think Winthrop has a good chance to win that game. I don't have them going far. I think I have them getting beat in the second round, but that's definitely one of the games that I'm looking forward to watching.
My 12-5 matchup that I have that I'm looking forward to is I've got Georgetown beating the 5 seed Colorado. So I feel like with Patrick Ewing there, Georgetown's a team that could crank it up in the tournament and take off. But really, I mean, there's not any big matchups. Of course, the Morehead State game against West Virginia we were talking about. Those are 2 teams that are in a close proximity to each other. Pretty much, rival states and stuff, being able to play each other. But just looking at the West bracket, there's so many just powerhouse teams in it right now for this year college basketball. You have Gonzaga, Oklahoma, Missouri was good in the SEC, Virginia was good in the ACC. You got Kansas. I mean, I feel like that's the best bracket. And then you have Iowa, and Iowa's just an all-out, just great ball team. So I feel like any game really that's going to come out of the West bracket is going to be a fun game to watch.
Let's talk about our sleeper Cinderella teams that we have. Before I tell you guys who I have, let's hear from you.
I'm not gonna lie, my bracket's pretty chalk. I don't have any Cinderellas this year.
None.
None. I don't have any.
I feel like this is the year, though, don't you?
Yeah, but I also think that basically playing on the neutral court, you'll have the better team win. And yeah, so I don't have any Cinderellas. I mean, okay, so if I had to pick one, it'd probably be, and it's not really wouldn't be a Cinderella team, but based off of their seeding, it would have to be Syracuse. And like I said, it's not a Cinderella team, but they're 11 seed. And I think the last time they were 11 seed, and we made fun of them for making it into the tournament, they went to the Elite Eight or the Final Four.
I always hate on Syracuse, and every time that I hate on them, they make it. I think the one year that I decided to take them somewhere, no. I always try to take them somewhere, and they never make it. And then the one year I bet against them, I think they make it to like the Elite Eight or something crazy like that. But didn't the coach of Syracuse, I'm having a name blank,
Jim Boeheim.
Didn't he hit somebody on his way home from a basketball game not last season, but a couple seasons ago?
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I forgot all about that.
Yeah, and that kind of just disappeared. Like, that stayed out of the media.
Well, I think it may have been an accident. I don't remember all the facts from that, so I'm not sure. But I know that he's been in the news this year for he's kind of turned into the cranky old man of college basketball. A lot of programs have had people decide to kind of quit on the season, whether it's an opt-out or whether they're taking advantage of the transfer portal. And you can think about, what you want about that, whether that's the right decision or whether it's good for the game or not. But I know Jim Boeheim has really called a lot of these kids that aren't even on his team out for quitting and not putting the team first and stuff like that. And I mean, he's entitled to his opinion, but it's also kind of trashy to throw an 18-year-old kid that's not even on your team under the bus. So in my opinion, it's probably time for him to hang it up. But here he is once again with the chance to make a run.
I'd say he's close, though. His son's on the team. So once his son's done, I'd say he's probably getting ready to be done himself.
Yeah.
So who's your sleeper?
Me or Jordan?
Either or.
Go ahead, Jordan.
I'll go ahead and go with mine. It's not really it's an 11 seed. They're not really a sleeper. It's kind of the same as Chad, Michigan State. I have Michigan State. I mean, I guess that's my ultimate.
It's a play-in game. I mean, it's obviously the committee thinks that they're one of the last four that should be in.
They're hot.
Yeah, I mean, so I have I won't reveal, but I have them going a pretty good way. So
okay,
I guess that's my real sleeper team to roll with. And then another one, I guess, would be the 15 seed Iona, just because
as much as I
don't like Rick Pitino, gosh, you can't rule him out.
Dang it. I mean, since you already revealed my sleeper, I know I've been riding it on Pitino's coat, but he's Rick Pitino. He's back, and he don't have a bad team. He's got that big guard Isaiah Ross. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. He's averaging 18.4 points a game, shooting threes like crazy. Rick Pitino, he was fired. He's back with a vengeance. So that's my sleeper team. And just because I went there and I love them, and I think that if there's going to be a team to be a Cinderella, why not just make it the OVC champs, Morehead State? But in my bracket, I've got WVU defeating them, and you will see why here momentarily. But those are my Morehead, a potential sleeper. But Iona, folks, if you want to really get that winning bracket and bust some people's head, and put Iona as your winner there. But Zach, go ahead and reveal that sleeper.
I've got a couple of teams that I've got going farther than their seeding would indicate. So one that we talked about, Michigan State. I think they're hot right now. I think you guys are all over that. I've got them going pretty far as well. USC is another team that I've got winning a few games more than probably most folks do. Evan Mobley, he's a beast. He's projected to be like a top 2 or 3 pick next year. Banks, you'll appreciate it. I got Florida going a ways. I know, I think they got a lot of talent. I don't think they put it all together yet. If there's a team that could get hot, and potential second round matchup against Ohio State, they've looked pretty weak lately.
Let me ask you, Zach, do you think that Florida is the best SEC team in the tournament right now?
I don't think they've had the best season, but I think they have the potential to go farther than any other SEC team. I mean, Alabama and Arkansas have obviously been better to this point. Alabama, the way they play, being so reliant on the shooting on the 3 ball, I just see them having a bad game. I don't think they can string a whole bunch of those together. So that's why leaning a little heavier on Florida. Yeah, and that's probably, I mean, Florida could lose in the first round, but I'm banking on them with the bracket I got here.
All right. Well, we are now at that time, folks, to reveal our Final Four predictions. And we're going to give you a little explanation as to why we each pick these. Now, keep in mind, we have only seen these brackets for like 15, 20 minutes. So this is all gut bracket. And when you tune in next week on our first and second round show, you're going to hear some inside knowledge, a little bit more research done behind that. But gut bracket, Final Four, Chad, who you going with?
My Final Four, I have Gonzaga and Alabama, Baylor and Illinois. Those are my top four. My Final Four. I told you my bracket is pretty chalk, so
Yeah,
at least
very,
I don't have
very chalky.
I don't have all number one seeds. I mean, in the past we've had all number one seeds. But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I said this year, the better teams are going to be there at the end. So I don't feel totally confident with my picks, but I feel like I could please. I mean, I feel like that at least 3 of the 4 will be there. I don't know about Alabama because, like Zach said, they rely too much on the 3 or their shooting, and we've seen multiple times where a team walk you down, you can't shoot anything. Just like going back to Kentucky in 2000 and John Calipari's first year here when we ran into a West Virginia team who locked down defense, zone defense, just shut them down and couldn't hit anything. That's one of the reasons why I'm kind of skeptical about Alabama making a run to the Final Four, only because of that. But I mean, the games that I've watched them play, they don't show any signs of slowing down.
Jordan, who's your Final Four?
No, go ahead.
All right, so I've got Gonzaga out of the West. It's the number 1 seed. They've got the Jalen Suggs and that Corey Kispert kid, and they're just both. I mean, they're both going to be top 10 picks probably in the NBA draft this year, and they're full of talent. It's the same Gonzaga team that you always have, except they have the actual, top recruits and stuff on their teams now. So I think that's kind of scary. I think Gonzaga is really just that good. I know they haven't played too many people, but I'm definitely not going to rule them out. Then I have Michigan State, as I said, as the 11th seed. So my big sleeper is Michigan State coming in there, making it to the Final Four. Then I have Baylor coming out of the South, and Baylor's just been a solid all-around team all year. They've showed it against top competition all year that they can get the job done. So I'm going to take them to the Final Four. And then another team that came out of the same conference, Oklahoma State, 4 seed. The Cade Cunningham kid they have is good. They're just a well-rounded team. So they've proven themselves this year to be a team that can compete with just about anybody. So in the Midwest, which I think is the weakest of the 4 regions. So I think you'll see Oklahoma State come out of there to make it to the Final Four.
All right. And Zach, who you got in your Final Four?
I've got Gonzaga as well. Jordan summed it up perfect with them. I mean, it's the same solid Gonzaga team with senior, fundamentally strong guys, but then they add in the top recruits like Jalen Suggs. So they're deep. They're good. It has been a while since they played anybody. That's really the top, but when they played Kansas, they played, I think, West Virginia earlier in the year. They looked amazing. I think you got to take them. I've got Florida State there. I'm not real sold on Florida State, but that bracket, the East to me was the weakest. So it's kind of Florida State by default. I wanted to write Michigan State in there, but that's just hard to do. That takes some guts to put an 11 seed in your Final Four. And then the other 2, I've got Baylor. Jared Butler's another solid national player of the year type of player for them. They've got a lot of depth. And then Illinois. Illinois has looked amazing in the last couple of weeks. They've got the master man, Io DeSumo back. They've got Kofi Cockburn, Orlando Antigua on the staff. I mean, Illinois is set up. They can throw a bad game out there every once in a while, but if they can play some good ones, I think they can make the Final Four as well.
All right, and we're going to go ahead and circle it back around, Zach, and we'll start with you. Bring it on home. Who is cutting down the nets
Out of that Final Four, I've got Gonzaga. I think this is the year they finally do it. That takes a lot for me. I normally love to key on Gonzaga as the team that, they're going to lose in the Sweet 16. They're overrated. I don't think so this year. I think Mark Few's got a heck of a program, and they look like the best team in college basketball. It's theirs to lose.
And they're playing against
Norfolk State or Appalachian State. So I think they'll be good on that one. Oklahoma, Missouri, I don't see give them a lot of problems. I don't really see them running into any challenge until maybe Virginia until the Sweet 16. That might be a tough matchup, but Gonzaga is my pick.
Okay. Jordan, who you taking to the final game and who you got cutting down the nets?
Taking to the final game, I've got Gonzaga playing Baylor. And like Zach, Gonzaga is just ultimately too good this year. So I'm taking Gonzaga with an undefeated record this year, and they're cutting the nets down.
Yeah. So is this going to be the first time? I know Indiana won with an undefeated record, or did they not? Or is this the first time? Okay.
It'd be
like
first
the 70s, right?
76.
Yeah. There's just been like 40 wins. I think that's why people were making it such a big deal in 2015 when Kentucky was on that journey of 40 wins.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't put an asterisk next to Gonzaga's championship if they get it, unless there's some crazy stuff that happens, like I said earlier. But I would put an asterisk next to saying, they're undefeated, perfect season. I believe they were supposed to play Baylor and maybe some other teams in a regular. Yeah. So that's kind of, it's impressive. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but it's not, like you said, Banks, 40 or no impressive.
And Chad, take it on around who's going to the final game and then cutting the nets down.
My championship matchup I have is Gonzaga and Illinois, with Gonzaga winning it all. I think, Gonzaga's been knocking on the door for the past, 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
They made a championship game in 2000. What year was that? 18.
Was that when Wilcher was on the team, like Kyle Wilcher?
That's when North Carolina won it all, right? In 2008. Was it 2018?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. But yeah, I think they're. I think this year, this is the best team they've had under Mark Few. Or I think this is the best team Mark Few has had at Gonzaga. And I think this year he finally, knocks that door down and brings home the title. They have everything for a championship caliber team. Jalen Suggs, top 5 projected pick. Corey Kispert, and Andrew Nebhard from Florida. I think that, even though they haven't played that many people, I think they're pretty far ahead of everybody else in the country. And so, I have Gonzaga win the championship in 2021.
My Final Four, ladies and gentlemen, Gonzaga, SEC team LSU, who I think is the best SEC sleeper team in the tournament. Ohio State's going to be in there after that performance I seen today. And if WVU can get past the Morehead State Eagles, I think that it is his year to make it all the way to the championship game. And when I say he, I'm talking about our boy Bobby Huggins. I think that he is going to thrive in this environment. I think he's been preparing for this gym ball, March Madness type atmosphere for 40 years. He can finally wear his pullover and it not be underdressed, because it seems like everybody's adopted that pullover look this year, which I hate because I think they need to get back to wearing suits. But I have Ohio State, WVU, Gonzaga, LSU, and then I've got Gonzaga versus WVU as my final game with Gonzaga. I think WVU is going to make it far, but it's not quite their year to make it all the way. Gonzaga is just too good. I think they're going to keep that undefeated streak alive, and I think they're going to be the ones to win it. So do we all have the same championship for the first time ever?
Didn't I say that earlier?
That's the first time in 7 years that we have all agreed on a champion.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably lose in like the second round or something.
Right.
That's interesting. Like looking at your bracket, who is the first number 1 seed to go down? Just if you can.
I have Michigan losing to Florida State in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I'm gonna have. I'm looking at it. I've not fully filled everything out, but I'm gonna have Michigan more than likely losing to LSU in the round of 32. So
Mine is Michigan as well.
Yeah.
Bama in the Elite Eight.
I can't figure out this digital bracket enough to figure out who mine is, because every time I slide over, it's freezing on me. But I need hard copy stuff.
Wasn't it so much better when you can just write it out on your
Yes.
paper brackets?
I miss those days. I do. Before we get out of here, I just want to say that we have more March Madness coverage coming up on the March Madness series, starting on March the 25th on Thursday at 8 o'clock, prime time, off the cuff on WLXU 93.9 FM. We'll be continuing the March Madness series to discuss the first and second rounds, and then we will continue the coverage on Thursday, April the 1st at 8 o'clock. And then we will continue the coverage on April the 8th at 8 o'clock on Thursday, WLXU. Good times, a lot of good stuff. We'll be on the air. Can't wait to have you guys share the 10 box with me. I'm really excited.
can't wait.
Yeah, man. This was definitely fun. Even though we couldn't all be together, I'm glad we finally were able to get a show for the first time in a year.
I know. I mean, it's really good to finally lock in another show. I think we've been doing this now for, I said 7 years, but COVID got into the way. So I guess this makes our 6th March Madness series. You guys have been in every one. And I think I've pretty much done a March Madness series I've done a March Madness series solo with each one of you guys too. I'm pretty sure I've done, if not a March Madness series, I've done an episode solo with one of you guys. So
I'm pretty sure in 2016 when Becky went out in the second round, it was just me and you after that, like 3 episodes. We just sat there.
Everybody else said screw it.
And it was like rainy Mondays that we had to get together and talk about how Kentucky was out of the tournament, and we just talked about other teams. I mean, that was fun.
I remember sitting at doing the halftime show for it was the year we had the Harrison twins. We kept winning all those crazy games. I remember doing a halftime show with you all way back in the day. So it's been a minute, but it's been a blast.
Yes. And I remember Jordan, I remember specifically you coming over and us we phoned Zach and Chad in. We did our episode. So
that was Zach's infamous list that he had.
Yeah, the list that don't exist. I mean, I've known Zach for over a decade, and he doesn't have a lisp, but for some reason on the telephone on that episode, it was very present.
Like, why are you all laughing at me?
I laughed so hard. Like, it's still to this day. I mean, I'm almost laughing now. I still get teary-eyed listening to that. It was so funny.
I'm gonna dig that episode back out of the archive and check it out again. I forgot all about it.
Well, yes, the episode that we're talking about is in 2019, and it was the post-game episode, and it was just me and Jordan doing it. Zach called in, and I remember you can hear me trying to not laugh. I was trying to, keep the seriousness going, but I mean, it was hard. It was difficult. Good times though.
Mm-hmm.
Good times. Well, guys, anything you want to add before we go ahead and wrap it up?
Good. Can't wait for next week and get it cranked up and come back with some more basketball action.
Yeah, man. Let's thanks for having me again. Let's do it, man. Let's watch some basketball.
I love the sound effect, by the way.
Remix.
All right. Well, guys, that is Zach Hahn, Chad Rainwater, and Jordan Conaster. I'm Adam Banks. This is Off the Cuff, and we will see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. on WLXU 93.9 FM to discuss the first couple of rounds of the tournament. We'll see you then.